Bullies pushed the student down the stairs. He broke himself, but got revenge on all of them. Marcus Rivera adjusted his thick-rimmed glasses as he navigated the crowded hallways of Westfield High School, his backpack heavy with textbooks and his shoulders hunched forward in a futile attempt to make himself invisible. At 15, he was tall but painfully thin, with unruly dark hair that never seemed to cooperate, and a face that bore the unfortunate combination of acne and braces. 3 weeks into the school year, and he still felt like an outsider looking in at a world where he didn't belong. The move from Phoenix to this small town in Oregon had been his father's idea, a fresh start after his mother's death the previous year. But fresh starts, Marcus had learned, were easier said than done, especially when you were the awkward new kid who preferred calculus to football and spent lunch periods reading science fiction novels instead of socializing. "Watch where you're going, freak," came a familiar voice from behind him. Marcus didn't need to turn around to know it was Tyler Brennan, the self-appointed king of the junior class. Tyler was everything Marcus wasn't. Broad-shouldered, confident, and blessed with the kind of natural charisma that made teachers overlook his less admirable qualities. His blonde hair was perfectly styled, his clothes expensive, and his smile could charm adults while simultaneously promising misery to anyone who crossed him. Marcus quickened his pace, but Tyler's voice followed him down the hallway. "I'm talking to you, calculator boy." The nickname had stuck after Marcus had corrected their math teacher on the first day, a moment of academic pride that had marked him as a target. Flanking Tyler were his two constant companions, Jake Morrison, a stocky redhead with freckles and a mean streak that ran deeper than his loyalty to the football team, and Connor Walsh, whose family money had bought him a place in Tyler's inner circle despite his obvious insecurities. The three of them had made Marcus's life a living hell since his second day at Westfield High. It had started small, accidentally, bumping into him in the hallways, knocking his books to the floor, making loud comments about his appearance during class. But as the weeks passed, their harassment had escalated. They'd started following him between classes, cornering him in empty classrooms, and making his daily existence a constant exercise in humiliation. The worst part wasn't the physical intimidation. It was the way other students either laughed along or simply looked away. Even the teachers seemed to practice a willful blindness, too busy or too indifferent to notice what was happening right under their noses. Marcus had learned early that high school was an ecosystem with its own brutal hierarchy, and he had been firmly placed at the bottom. What none of them knew, what Marcus had never told anyone since arriving in Oregon, was that he had spent the last 5 years training in mixed martial arts. His father, a former military man who had served 3 tours in Afghanistan, had insisted on it after Marcus had been bullied in middle school. "The world isn't fair, son," his father had said, "but you can be ready for it." Every afternoon for 5 years, Marcus had trained at Phoenix Combat Academy under the tutelage of former UFC fighter Ramon Gutierrez. He had learned Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, and boxing. He could throw a punch that would drop a grown man and execute a takedown that would leave an opponent questioning their life choices. But his father had also taught him something else: restraint. "Violence is a last resort," his father had said repeatedly. "You use your skills to protect yourself and others, never to hurt someone unnecessarily." So Marcus endured. He endured Tyler's daily taunts, Jake's shoulder checks in the hallway, and Connor's whispered insults during chemistry class. He endured the snickers when he ate lunch alone, the way conversations stopped when he approached, and the general atmosphere of disdain that seemed to follow him everywhere. But endurance, Marcus was learning, had its limits. The breaking point came on a Tuesday afternoon in late October. Marcus had stayed after school to work on a physics project in the library, hoping to avoid his tormentors who would be at football practice. The library was nearly empty, just him and Mrs. Henderson, the elderly librarian who had always been kind to him. He was gathering his materials when he heard familiar voices in the hallway outside. Where's our favorite nerd? Tyler's voice carried clearly through the quiet corridors. I heard he's been hiding in the library, like some kind of bookworm. Marcus's heart rate spiked. He quickly stuffed his notebooks into his backpack and headed for the back exit. But it was too late. Tyler, Jake, and Connor appeared in the doorway, blocking his path. Well, well, Tyler said, his voice dripping with false friendliness. Look what we have here. Calculator boy, all alone with his precious books. I was just leaving, Marcus said quietly, trying to step around them. Oh, no, you don't, Jake said, shoving Marcus backward. We haven't had our daily chat yet. Mrs. Henderson looked up from her desk, but Tyler flashed his charming smile. Just saying hi to our friend here, Mrs. H. We'll be out of your hair in a minute. The old woman nodded and returned to her work, either missing or ignoring the tension in the room. Marcus felt his jaw clench. Even here, in what should have been a safe space, he was on his own. You know what I heard, Connor said, emboldened by Tyler's presence. I heard you don't even have any friends back in Phoenix. I heard that's why your family moved here, because you're such a loser that even losers didn't want to hang out with you. The words hit harder than Marcus expected. It wasn't true. He'd had friends in Phoenix, good friends who had been genuinely sad to see him go. But something about Connor's sneer, about the way he delivered the lie with such casual cruelty, made Marcus's vision blur with anger. That's not true, Marcus said, his voice stronger than he intended. Oh, did I hit a nerve? Connor laughed. Poor little Marcus, all alone in the world. No friends, no girlfriend, no life, just books and numbers and his pathetic little existence. Leave me alone, Marcus said, his hands clenching into fists despite himself. Tyler stepped closer, his smile turning predatory. Or what? What are you going to do about it, calculator boy? Solve an equation at us? The three of them laughed, but Marcus could see something else in their eyes, a hunger for escalation, a desire to push him past his breaking point. They wanted him to fight back, wanted him to give them an excuse to really hurt him. I'm not going to fight you, Marcus said, shouldering his backpack. Just let me go. See, that's your problem, Tyler said, blocking his path again. You're weak. You're pathetic. You don't deserve to be here, taking up space that real people could use. The words stung because they echoed Marcus's own fears, his own insecurities about fitting in at his new school. But he forced himself to remain calm, to remember his father's lessons about restraint. I don't want any trouble, he said. Too bad, Jake said, shoving him harder this time. Because trouble found you. They followed him out of the library, their harassment continuing as they walked down the hallway. Other students were gone for the day, leaving the corridors empty, except for the four of them. Marcus's heart was pounding, but he kept walking, hoping they would eventually get bored and leave him alone. They didn't. You know what I think? Tyler said, his voice growing nastier. I think you're not just a loser. I think you're a coward. I think you're the kind of person who would run away from a fight, even if your life depended on it. Marcus stopped walking. Something in Tyler's tone, some particular venom in the word coward, made him turn around. His father hadn't been a coward. His father had served his country with honor, had faced down armed enemies in foreign lands. The men in his family weren't cowards. I'm not a coward, Marcus said quietly. Prove it, Tyler said, stepping closer. Take a swing at me. Come on, tough guy. Show me what you've got. Marcus looked at the three of them, saw the eager anticipation in their faces, and realized what was happening. They wanted him to throw the first punch so they could claim self-defense when they beat him senseless. It was a trap, and he wasn't going to fall for it. I'm not going to hit you, he said, turning back around. That's what I thought, Tyler said. Coward. They were near the main staircase now, the one that led from the second floor down to the main entrance. Marcus could see the exit doors in the distance, freedom just a flight of stairs away. He started down, taking the steps 2 at a time, eager to put distance between himself and his tormentors. That's when it happened. Marcus felt hands on his back, a sudden violent shove that sent him tumbling forward. Time seemed to slow as he lost his balance, his backpack flying off his shoulders as he crashed down the concrete steps. He hit the first landing hard, his shoulder slamming into the wall before he continued rolling down the second flight. When he finally came to a stop at the bottom, Marcus lay there for a moment, stunned and disoriented. His glasses were gone, his vision blurry. Pain shot through his shoulder and ribs, and he could taste blood in his mouth where he'd bitten his tongue. His textbooks were scattered across the floor, pages torn and covers bent. Above him, he could hear Tyler, Jake, and Connor laughing. "Oops," Tyler called down mockingly. "Looks like Calculator Boy tripped. How clumsy of him." "Maybe next time he'll watch where he's going," Jake added. Marcus pushed himself up on his hands and knees, feeling around for his glasses. His shoulder screamed in protest, but nothing seemed broken. He found his glasses nearby, one lens cracked but still functional, and slid them back onto his face. The world came back into focus, and with it, a clarity that had been missing for weeks. They had crossed a line. This wasn't just harassment anymore. They had physically assaulted him, could have seriously injured him, and they were standing at the top of the stairs, laughing about it like it was the funniest thing they'd ever seen. Marcus stood up slowly, testing his balance. The pain in his shoulder was manageable, and his ribs were sore but not broken. He looked up at the 3 faces peering down at him and felt something fundamental shift inside his chest. "You okay down there, Calculator Boy?" Tyler called. "Need help getting up?" Marcus didn't answer. Instead, he began climbing the stairs, moving with a fluid grace that hadn't been there before. His posture had changed. His shoulders were back, his spine straight, his movements controlled and purposeful. "Oh, look," Connor said nervously. "I think we hurt his feelings." But Tyler was frowning now, something in Marcus's demeanor triggering an instinct he couldn't quite name. "Hey, I'm talking to you, freak. You better not be thinking about doing something stupid." Marcus reached the top of the stairs and stood facing them. When he spoke, his voice was calm, almost conversational. "You pushed me down the stairs." "Prove it," Tyler said, but there was less confidence in his voice now. "I don't need to prove it," Marcus said. "I know it. You know it. And now you're going to learn something about consequences." Jake stepped forward, apparently deciding to end this before it could escalate. "Listen, you little—" Marcus moved faster than any of them expected. 5 years of training had taught him to recognize the telltale signs of someone about to throw a punch. The slight shift in weight, the drawing back of the shoulder, the telegraphed motion that preceded most amateur fighting attempts. Jake's right hand was still coming forward when Marcus slipped to the side, caught the wrist, and used Jake's own momentum to send him spinning into the wall. The redhead hit the concrete hard and slid down, stunned and gasping. Connor's eyes went wide. "What the hell?" He never finished the sentence. Marcus pivoted and delivered a perfect left hook to Connor's solar plexus, doubling him over and dropping him to his knees. The rich kid wheezed and gasped, his face turning purple as he struggled to breathe. Tyler backed away, his eyes darting between his fallen friends and Marcus, who was standing calmly in the center of the hallway as if nothing had happened. "You're crazy," Tyler said, but Marcus could hear the fear in his voice now. "You're completely crazy." "No," Marcus said, stepping forward. "I'm just done." Tyler tried to rush him, probably hoping his size advantage would be enough. But Marcus had sparred with grown men who could bench press twice Tyler's weight. He sidestepped the clumsy charge, grabbed Tyler's shirt, and used a simple hip toss to send the would-be bully crashing to the floor. Tyler tried to get up, but Marcus placed a firm hand on his chest and pushed him back down. "Stay down," he said quietly. "This is over." "Get off me!" Tyler snarled, but he didn't try to get up again. Marcus looked at the 3 of them, Jake still dazed against the wall, Connor on his knees trying to catch his breath, Tyler flat on his back with fear in his eyes. A few months ago, he would have felt sorry for them. Now, he felt nothing but cold satisfaction. "Here's what's going to happen," he said, his voice carrying clearly in the empty hallway. "You're going to leave me alone. You're going to stop following me, stop harassing me, and stop pretending like you own this school. Because if you don't, what just happened will seem like a gentle warning compared to what comes next." "You can't threaten us," Tyler said, but his voice cracked. "I'm not threatening you," Marcus replied. "I'm educating you. There's a difference." He stepped back, giving them space to breathe, but keeping his hands ready. "You picked on me because you thought I was weak, because you thought I wouldn't fight back. You were wrong about both of those things." Connor had finally caught his breath and was looking up at Marcus with a mixture of fear and confusion. "How did you—" "It doesn't matter how," Marcus said. "What matters is that you understand the new reality. I'm not your victim anymore. I'm not anyone's victim. And if you're smart, you'll spread that message to anyone else who might be thinking about testing me." Jake pushed himself off the wall, his face red with embarrassment and anger. "This isn't over." Marcus looked at him steadily. "Yes, it is. Unless you want to end up in the hospital, it's over." The threat hung in the air like a physical presence. Marcus wasn't bluffing, and somehow all three of them knew it. The quiet kid who had endured weeks of harassment had revealed himself to be something else entirely, something dangerous. "We'll tell the principal," Tyler said, scrambling to his feet. "We'll tell everyone what you did." "Go ahead," Marcus said. "Tell them how 3 football players couldn't handle 1 nerd. Tell them how you pushed me down the stairs and I still kicked your asses. I'm sure that'll work out great for your reputations." The truth of it hit them like a physical blow. They couldn't report this without admitting their own actions, couldn't claim victimhood without revealing their own guilt. They were trapped by their own behavior, caught in a web of their own making. Tyler's face cycled through several emotions: anger, fear, confusion, and finally a grudging respect that he clearly didn't want to acknowledge. "This isn't how it's supposed to work," he said quietly. "No," Marcus agreed. "It's not. But it's how it works when you push someone too far." The next few days at Westfield High were unlike anything Marcus had experienced. Word of the confrontation spread quickly through the school's social networks, though the details varied wildly depending on who was telling the story. Some said Marcus had hospitalized all 3 of his attackers. Others claimed he'd used weapons. A few insisted it never happened at all. But the truth was visible to anyone who looked closely. Tyler, Jake, and Connor gave Marcus a wide berth in the hallways, their eyes darting away whenever they saw him coming. They stopped their harassment campaigns against other students too, as if Marcus's resistance had broken something fundamental in their approach to social dominance. Other students began to notice Marcus in a different way. They nodded when he passed, made room for him in lines, and included him in conversations he would never have been part of before. It wasn't friendship exactly, but it was respect. The kind of respect that came from knowing someone could stand up for themselves when pushed too far. Marcus found himself sitting with different groups at lunch, contributing to class discussions without fear of mockery, and walking through the hallways with his head held high. The scared, hunched-over kid who had arrived in Oregon 3 weeks ago was gone, replaced by someone who understood his own worth and wouldn't let others diminish it. The change wasn't just external. Marcus felt different inside too, more confident, more centered, more aware of his own capabilities. He had spent so long trying to be invisible that he had forgotten what it felt like to simply exist as himself, without apology or explanation. 2 weeks after the incident, Tyler approached him in the hallway. Marcus tensed, ready for another confrontation, but Tyler's body language was different, less aggressive, more uncertain. "I want to talk to you," Tyler said quietly. Marcus studied his face, looking for signs of deception or malice. "About what?" "About what happened." About, Tyler struggled with the words, about how things were before. They walked to an empty classroom, away from the curious eyes of other students. Tyler sat down heavily, his usual confidence nowhere to be seen. "I never apologized," he said finally, "for pushing you down the stairs, for all the other stuff too." Marcus waited, saying nothing. "I know you probably think I'm just doing this because I'm scared of you now," Tyler continued, "and maybe that's part of it. But I've been thinking about what you said, about consequences, about how I treated you." "And?" Tyler looked up at him, and Marcus saw something he hadn't expected, genuine remorse. "And I was wrong. I was wrong about you, wrong about what I thought gave me the right to make your life hell. I've been thinking about why I did it, and I don't have a good answer." "You did it because you could," Marcus said, "because you thought there wouldn't be any consequences." "Yeah," Tyler nodded. "That's exactly why, and that's messed up." They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of weeks of harassment hanging between them. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," Tyler said finally. "I know I don't deserve it, but I want you to know that it won't happen again. Not from me, not from Jake or Connor. We're done with that." Marcus studied Tyler's face, looking for signs of manipulation or insincerity. But the other boys seemed genuinely shaken, as if the confrontation had forced him to confront aspects of himself he didn't like. "Why should I believe you?" Marcus asked. "Because I finally understand something," Tyler said. "I understand that being able to hurt someone doesn't give you the right to hurt them. And I understand that actions have consequences, even when you think they don't." Marcus nodded slowly. "They do. Every action has a consequence, Tyler. Every choice matters." "I know that now," Tyler said. "I wish I'd known it before." As Marcus walked home that afternoon, he thought about the journey that had brought him to this point. The scared kid who had arrived in Oregon was gone, replaced by someone who had learned to stand up for himself without losing his moral center. He had used violence, but only in response to violence. He had fought back, but only after exhausting every other option. His father had been right about many things. The world wasn't fair, but you could be ready for it. Violence was a last resort, but sometimes it was the only language bullies understood. And most importantly, you could defend yourself without becoming the thing you were fighting against. Marcus had learned that strength wasn't about being able to hurt people. It was about being able to protect yourself and others when necessary. It was about knowing when to fight and when to walk away. It was about understanding that respect had to be earned, not demanded. The transformation hadn't been easy or comfortable. Marcus had been forced to confront his own capacity for violence, his own ability to hurt others when pushed too far. But he had also discovered reserves of strength and confidence he hadn't known he possessed. As he approached his house, Marcus saw his father's car in the driveway. His father was home early from work, probably wondering how his son's day had gone. Marcus had never told him about the bullying, not wanting to worry him or seem like he couldn't handle his own problems. But now, walking up the driveway with his head held high and his shoulders back, Marcus realized he had handled his own problems. He had faced down his tormentors and emerged victorious, not through cruelty or revenge, but through the simple act of refusing to be a victim any longer. His father opened the door before Marcus could reach for his keys, taking in his son's posture and expression with the trained eye of a former soldier. "Good day at school?" his father asked, but Marcus could see the knowing look in his eyes. "Yeah, Dad," Marcus replied, meeting his father's gaze directly. "It was a very good day." His father smiled, the kind of smile that said he understood exactly what his son had learned and why it mattered. "I'm proud of you, son." Marcus nodded, feeling the truth of those words settle into his bones. He was proud of himself too, not for the violence, but for the strength he had shown in standing up for himself. He had learned that being kind didn't mean being weak, and that sometimes the most peaceful people were the ones who knew how to fight, but chose not to. The quiet kid who had been pushed down the stairs was gone, replaced by someone who understood that respect was earned through actions, not given through fear. Marcus had found his place in the world, and he had done it on his own terms.